you know, behind every service we use, no matter how simple it seems, there's a whole complex machine running things. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on a surprisingly intricate business that solves a problem you probably don't even know exists until, well, you desperately need it.
So let's imagine this. You want to renovate your house, maybe your office. You're all fired up and ready to go, but then, bam, you hit a huge roadblock. The city tells you they need plans to issue a permit, but the original blueprints for your building, they're gone, vanished. It's a way more common problem than you'd think, and it's super frustrating.
Yet without those documents, your entire project is basically dead in the water. And this is the exact moment when a very specific kind of specialist gets a phone call, a team that literally steps in when the architectural DNA of a building has just disappeared.
So let's meet this team, Concept Architectural Designs. And you should think of them less as traditional designers and more like a team of, well, architectural detectives. Their whole job is to investigate a building and figure out its current real-world specs. The service they offer is called measured drawings. And that's just a professional way of saying they meticulously measure every nook and cranny and draw what a building looks like today. They create a brand new, super accurate set of plans completely from scratch. And this is where you can really see the magic happen. On the left, you see where it starts, with the raw data, a messy hand-drawn sketch with notes scribbled all over it. And then on the right, you see the final product, a clean, polished, professional 3D model that architects and builders can actually work with. They are literally turning chaos into clarity. But here's a really crucial detail from their legal agreement. They make it crystal clear that they are not licensed architects or engineers. What they do is provide the precise as-is data. They don't provide the official stamps you need for construction. And this positions them perfectly as a specialized partner. They're the vital first step in a much bigger process. Okay, so speaking of legal stuff, let's look at the fine print. Because to really get how this business works, you have to go beyond the pretty drawings and look at the rules of the game. And it's all laid out in their design services agreement.
All right, let's dive in. The contract sets some very clear financial expectations right from the get-go. You have to pay a non-refundable retainer just to get them to start. And if you're late on a payment, well, there are consequences.
And they are not messing around when it comes to those consequences. The annual interest rate on late payments is a hefty 18%. This sends a very clear message. This isn't some casual handshake deal. It's a serious, tightly structured business transaction. But hey, projects change, right? Things happen. So what happens if a client needs to pull the plug halfway through? This is where the contract makes a really critical distinction. It separates cancellation, which happens before any real work starts. In that case, you just lose your deposit. End of story. From termination. And termination happens after they've already gotten started. And that, well, that's a whole different ballgame with much bigger financial consequences.
And that brings us to something called the kill fee. If you terminate the project after the work has begun, you owe them an extra charge of 25% of the total project fee. It's a clause designed purely to protect the company from the huge cost of a client just backing out midstream.
All this talk about fees and work brings us to a really fascinating and honestly often misunderstood part of any creative service. Who actually owns the stuff that gets made? I mean, it seems totally straightforward, doesn't it? If you're paying a company a bunch of money to create detailed drawings of your building, it seems obvious that those drawings should belong to you.
But nope, the contract says the exact opposite. This clause right here states that everything they create, every single drawing, note, and model, remains their exclusive property. They keep the full copyright. So you're probably wondering, then what am I actually paying for? Well, you're not paying for the drawings themselves, you're paying for a license. Think of it like a limited permission slip to use the final PDF files for that one specific project and absolutely nothing more. You can't change them, you can't use them for another building, and you definitely can't get the original source files.
Okay, so we've got this highly specialized service that's wrapped in a fortress of legal protection. So how does this company take all of that complexity and present it to the world in a way that's simple, friendly, and, approachable?
Check this out. These are the company's internal marketing notes. It's a prompt they're feeding to an AI to generate a podcast ad. And notice the focus isn't on kill fees or copyright law, right? It's all about solving a relatable, frustrating problem for a potential customer. And here we can see that strategy playing out in the real world. You can draw a direct line from that internal AI prompt to a real, public-facing piece of marketing, a podcast that's designed to build their authority and create trust.
This just highlights the contrast so perfectly. While the legal contract is rigid, protective, and all business, the public marketing message is the complete opposite. It's all about experience, trust, expertise, and customer-friendly stuff like a senior discount.
So after deconstructing the blueprints of this entire business, from its service to its sales pitch to its legal framework, what's the big lesson here? What can we learn from concept architectural designs?
The real key takeaway is this duality. It seems like a successful modern service business often needs two completely different faces. The face it shows the public has to be friendly, helpful, and totally focused on solving your problems. But the other face, the one in the contract, has to be a rigid, protective legal framework that's designed to shield the business from all kinds of risk. And you really need both to survive.
And that leaves us with a final thought to chew on. We've just peeked behind the curtain of one super niche service. But it makes you wonder, right? How many other complex systems, all governed by rules we never even see, are operating just beneath the surface of the simple services we interact with every single day?